Welcome to the Behind Beliefs and Behaviors podcast, where we take you on a journey of what is behind the specific beliefs and behaviors that impact individuals and organizations. With our guests, we get to the root cause of what stands in the way of everything from health, wealth, and relationships to leadership, community transformation, and societal progress. From topics on leadership, psychological safety, corporate culture and communication, to parenting, trauma, relationships, personal health, and intimacy, this podcast is sure to get you to the source and provide you practical tips to transform your life one root cause at a time. I am your host, Dr. Maisha Claiborne. I'm a physician, a coach, a consultant, and an expert in trauma-informed communication. The founder of the Mind Remapping Company, I help individuals and organizations better understand the brain, behavior, and the root of false beliefs so that you can more effectively listen, communicate, connect, and create fulfilling relationships and results in your personal and professional life. Join us every Monday morning at 8 a.m. and let's get to the root cause and discover what's behind your beliefs and behaviors. All right, welcome back to another episode. I am so excited here to have a guest who I was actually recently on her podcast. We'll talk a little bit about that, but really one of the things that I loved most about this guest today is what she does. She's all about finding love and about healing trauma inside of the feminine dating archetype. So I'm welcoming to the show, Lilli Bewley. Thank you so much for being here. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Maisha. I am so honored to be here. It was such a great conversation that we had on my podcast, and I just can't wait to dive into all things dating and all things love. And I appreciate you. And I'm doing wonderful today. This is conversations with people like you really light me up. And so I'm so excited to be here.
This is why I podcast. So I get to have conversations with amazing people like you and really juicy conversations. So I'm looking forward to it. But before we go there, I really want to have my listeners get to know you. I really like the listeners to connect to the guest. And so I would love for you to just share a little bit about who you are, what you do, how you got to be the dating coach for finding love.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I always say when it comes to this part of the show that I was born with a big heart. I was born with a pure, big heart. And throughout my life, based off of where I grew up, the environment that I was in when I grew up, the different failed relationships that followed me that I could not seem to run away from, even moving across the country 3 or 4 times, girl, that I arrive here today with having gone through a lot in my life, healing from the emotional traumas from my past, the traumas from my past, realizing I got to a point really in my life where I was really good at achieving. Like I was really good at getting validation from men, even from the accolades that I would get on my resume or the achievements that I would achieve in my life. And I got to this point in my life where I had achieved and accumulated really everything that my mom and my dad, society had told me that in order to make me happy, I got everything that what I was supposed to have. I had the 6-figure job. I had the banging resume. I had the car. I had the good house. I had a boyfriend that on the outside it looked good, but on the inside it was not good at all. It was pretty toxic and unhealthy. I didn't know anything other than that. I didn't know anything other than constantly searching for the next best thing. The more money I can make, the prettier I could be, the skinnier I could be. And when I got all of those things, I hit a wall because I was so desperately unhappy. I was still unhappy. And so that kind of turned me to realize, like through a very dark night of the soul at that point, turned me into myself and to realize like all the things that I was taught really was wrong. And that led me to start to explore other things out there that I didn't know because I wasn't given an example. I wasn't given an example of therapy, or I wasn't given an example of reading books about, I don't know, codependency or things like that. And so I started that down that path, and that was about 10 years ago today.
Mm.
And since then, what the way that I arrived to you today with this beautifully open heart, but also discerning about who deserves the time, the space, and the energy about who to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I focus on dating and relationships is that through my failed relationships in the past, what I realized is I really didn't know myself. I
Yeah.
only knew how I was in this relationship, what role I played, whether that be helper or coach or teacher or whatever. And the things that I tried in those unhealthy relationships was learning new communication styles, learning the love language of my partner,
Right.
learning how to grow and heal and communicate better, learning about, oh, you just need to set date nights every week and your
Mm.
relationship is going to be fine. But those
Mhm.
never ended up coming through.
Yeah.
And what I realized, it was less about the relationship, but more about who that I chose from the beginning to start down the relationship path with. And
Yeah.
because of the things that had happened to me in the past, I didn't know who was good for me and who was not. I didn't know how to listen to myself. I didn't know how to listen to my intuition, my body. I didn't know how to speak up for myself. So my pattern was self-sacrificing, self-abandoning on the inside. And
Mhm.
so that's why I focus on dating today, is to help, because of the path that I walked myself of relearning how to listen to my intuition, speak up for my needs and my wants and desires, knowing what my true needs, wants, and desires are, which is all under all of the stuff that has happened to us in the past.
Yeah.
So that's what I help women do today is, why not start from the very beginning instead of trying to polish a turd in a crappy relationship with someone that does not want to meet you halfway?
Yeah.
Why not from the beginning know from the beginning who is right for you or who is not,
Mhm.
and then start to walk down that path of learning and growing yourself together and with the relationship. So that's why I focus on dating, is why not do it from the beginning?
I love that. I love that. There's so much in what you said, right? There's so much what you said. One of the things that occurs for me is, as you talked about, you had the car, you had the banging resume, you had the
Mhm.
house, you had all the things, right? All the things. And there was something that was missing. You even had the boyfriend. There was
Mhm.
something that was missing. And
Mhm.
then fast forward to this piece of understanding yourself and knowing how to stand up for yourself and knowing what certain things feel like in your body. And it occurs to me, like, even though you focus on dating, the skills and the things that you learned apply across the board.
Mhm.
It's
100%.
100%, because how you
Mhm.
do anything is how you do everything. And so I love that you focus on dating. But what I love even more is that how people don't even realize how much this impacts your entire sense of self, sense of
Mhm.
confidence. So I just
Mhm.
love that.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. I say that too with my clients, is any pattern that you see in any area of your life is a repeated pattern
Mhm,
throughout dating and relationships. Women come to me because they see unhealthy patterns in their behaviors, actions, thoughts, and beliefs.
mhm,
But you're exactly right, Dr. Maisha. Like, it's everywhere. It was the healing work that I had to do with myself and my dating, my relationship. I'm in a beautiful partnership right now with the most amazing man I've ever known. It wouldn't have happened if I had not done that healing myself. It's also translated now into my business. It's also
mhm,
translated now into my relationship with money. Like, my eyes
mhm.
don't go blurry anymore when I look at my bank account now. And it's so true. It's like the healing that I've done throughout my life, and the women do in your containers as well, I'm sure it is
Mhm,
mine, is that it really translates to this aligned life where we are able to be who we are at our core. Like I
yeah,
started saying from the very beginning, I was born with a big heart. The
yeah,
difference is that I lead with my big heart now, but I'm discerning about who, what, this time at what I spend my energy on, everything, what I spend my money on, does
yeah,
that deserve to be there? And those were the skills. These are all transferable skills that we
mhm.
did not learn because of the stuff that had happened to us in the past, that continues to happen to us through the patterns in our life.
That's right. That's right. I love the discernment. That is like the word of the month.
I love it.
Really, I just believe that that's a skill. Discernment is a skill, and people don't often get how much of a skill that is. Um,
Yeah, I agree.
I want to move into, I'm just so curious. I want to move into the feminine archetypes. You came up with this.
Yeah, God and I. Yeah, I
Yes,
can't take full responsibility
of course.
for
Of course, but we're always in co-creation. We're on
was.
co-creation,
Yes,
right? So
yes.
I would love to hear a little bit about what you do with the feminine archetype. And
Mm,
because I know we talked about, you've already mentioned, alluded to the trauma
mhm,
and the relationship between the two, but like
mhm,
setting the foundation with what
mhm,
is the feminine archetype. I'd really love to
mhm.
hear more about that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, let's set the foundation. The feminine dating archetypes, just first and foremost, is they can be in archetypes, let's say. So there can be a place where women get stuck in the dating and relationship process, or they can be in phases. They were phases that I moved through, but that's only because that I courageously and conscientiously stepped into healing, and just to set the stage on that. And how they came about was me going through my healing process and seeing, they always say hindsight's 2020, and seeing what I went through the process. And then the training that I have about what happens inside of us with our nervous systems, what happens inside of us with attachment theory.
Yeah.
So I had all this, it's like this big soup that was happening
Mhm,
in the
mhm,
last maybe 5 or 6 years, was me going through my process, knowing what I know about how our bodies and brains, our thoughts, behaviors, and actions and beliefs happen because of the stuff
mhm,
that the trauma that we've gone through. Then watching my clients go through this process of these different phases, taking them through these different phases,
mhm,
and then realizing like, this is a thing. And then God was
mhm.
like, yo, that's how God talks to me. God's like, yo, this is a thing. And so it all came together with these 4 different feminine dating archetypes. And what I love about these is that it helps women realize that they are not alone in their process and their journey. Because what happens if you are a woman that is dating, sees toxic and unhealthy patterns in dating and relationship, and goes and tries to talk to your family and friends about it, you inevitably feel unseen, unheard, misunderstood, because it's typically brushed over. Oh, just
Mhm,
go have fun. Or, oh, there are many fish in the sea.
mhm,
And what is happening inside of you is not fully like able to be understood by other people in your life. And so what I love about this is it really takes an inside out approach. Like, what is happening on the inside of you when you're seeing these behavioral and patterns in your dating life? And so that's what I love about all of this, is that I really want women to be seen and know that you are not alone in this. Like, you don't have to cover up or like good vibes only the fact that you have anxiety and overwhelm when you don't hear back from the other person in 48 or 72 hours, right? That's
mhm.
normal. And it's not just like, it's not just something that you brush away. So that's where they came from, if that makes sense.
I love that. I love that. Would you be willing to give like an example of one or two of these archetypes so that people get a sense of what is this?
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone's listening and they're either dating or are in a relationship and still are seeing unhealthy patterns inside of themselves, you can go to datingarchetype.com to take
Mhm,
the quiz. It takes 2 minutes. It'll show your blocks to love and what you need to work on next. But the 2 most common that I see, Dr. Maisha, is the chill woman. The chill woman. Now,
woman. Oh,
mhm.
oh.
So the chill woman is super familiar with overwhelming and anxiety in the dating process. And
Mm,
this tends to flare up in 24, 48 hours after not hearing from the other person. Now, the chill woman tends to get ghosted a lot, and she doesn't understand why.
mm,
She's probably herself pretty good at communicating, but for whatever reason attracts someone who has more of an avoidant or ghosting type of tendencies.
mhm,
Sometimes the chill woman can tend to have sex pretty quickly after meeting the other
mhm,
person, even though she might promise herself that she won't,
mhm,
or she tells herself that she can handle it. But in the end, it never ends up good because she catches
mhm.
feelings and it just ends up not good.
Yeah, right.
The chill woman tends to attract men who just want to hang out and chill. And she normally
Mhm,
says yes to this because she wants to see how it goes, quote unquote, or just craves that connection and attention. In the past, You know, if you're the chill woman, if in the past you've complained in your relationship of not being seen and not being heard. And she really just wants to know. The chill woman just wants to know that people are going to be there and not leave. Now, the chill woman inside of herself and her healing with therapy. And if you're seeing this like a pattern, my recommendation, I know that you probably recommend this as well, Dr. Maisha, is to get in some kind of therapy or coaching where you can start to get to the subconscious and unconscious issues for why these are. But to heal the chill woman, the healing points for her is to work on her boundaries herself, like saying yes and doing yes, saying no and doing no, if that's what she needs to do. And also to see, hear, and understand herself on the inside, her needs and her wants and desires, so that they can start to translate on the outside. So that's a chill woman.
Oh, cool. Okay, the chill woman. I'm all right.
You do know anybody? Are you familiar with a chill woman?
Well, I was supposed to do this. Admittedly, like I had to admit to my audience, I was supposed to take this dating quiz a while ago, and I still haven't done it yet. And I'm gonna do it because there's elements of it. There's elements of it that really resonate. I definitely, boundaries is an ever evolving thing for me.
It always is. It always is.
Evolving thing. But I'd be curious to take the quiz and see if there's some other crossovers. And that's actually my next question is, can the archetypes shift and change over a woman's lifetime? Or do they change with different context? Or is it like you are what you are?
Everything, you are what you are. We were just talking, about boundaries, and as much as I'm sure that you're the same way, as much as the work that I've done on myself, there's always an edge.
Right.
There is always an edge. And so the archetypes really, I like to use them as signposts, especially when I'm working with other people. And for me, like I said, it was phases. I was a chill woman probably my whole life, right? Like this easygoing person, was a helper, a coach, always that person that never had any needs or wants or desires, really disconnected from myself. And then I went to the fortress woman, pretty self-explanatory, but the fortress woman has a wall the size of the Great Wall of China around her heart. So she doesn't let anyone in. It's pretty funny if you really get into the fortress woman, because if any fortress women are listening, they're going to get triggered by this, because I would have. But there is a great healing benefit for being alone, but not for a lifetime.
I think I might relate more to the fortress.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now I'm like so curious. Should we take this on air? Because I'm so curious.
Sure.
But then you move into then I moved into the goddess woman, and the goddess woman is an archetype where she's done a lot of work on herself. Like she's got that goddess mentality and energy, but there's also a little bit of performer in there. There's a little bit of, I know all of these things about my attachment style, but I can't seem to change it. The behaviors and actions and beliefs don't line up with what she knows in her head to what she should be doing really in real life in her body. Like the goddess woman is on the outside, everything's good, everything's perfect, but on the inside in her dating life, it's a mess. It's a hot mess. And so there's the goddess woman, right? Like she knows that she has self-love, but her actions, behaviors, thoughts, and beliefs don't line up with what she knows in her heads. And that's, I work mostly with the chill woman and the goddess woman, because most of the times those are the two most open to change. The last phase is the magnetic woman. And that is the woman that I aspire to be at least 80% of the time. No part of me is a perfect human. Like I'm a human, I'm a mess sometimes too. But the magnetic woman is everything that we really want, which is a lot of times the woman that we don't even know that we can be. And that's part of the healing, which is knowing who I am and what I want, honor myself by sticking to and setting boundaries, loving and caring with myself when I mess up, all of those things, my worth and my magnetism. Like I know I love myself, but do my actions, behaviors, thoughts, and beliefs line up with what that means to me? And that's the hard part. A lot of times the goddess woman has done the work to know what she wants in her dream partner. Like she's written down all the characteristics. She's written a letter to her soulmate, but what's showing up in her life, in real life, is everything she still doesn't want. So there's something about, what's happening inside of her that she cannot consciously get to
Yeah.
right? Because she's already done the work. So it's a lot of subconscious and unconscious stuff going on to actually manifest that in real life. And that's the magnetic woman. So I think to answer your question, it's phases for
It's
me. And
phases.
I think too, with different people, like for me, with my family, I'm probably more the fortress woman because I have to be to protect myself. But with most of the time in my life, I am the magnetic woman because I've learned how to be discerning and listen to all the clues of my intuition and, you know, and all that stuff.
It's interesting as I think about it, like, I feel like I have been the chill woman and I'm coming out of the fortress phase.
Okay.
Maybe I'm like somewhere in that
Goddess magnetic.
fortress and well, maybe like fortress and goddess. But I'm on we taking this on air and I'm cool with it. I'm here for it. I'm on dating sabbatical until I get back out there. I guess I'm not really sure, right? I can only speak for what happened 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is 100%. Why I feel like now I'm maybe coming out of a fortress phase, because I think I went into fortress phase like, nope. But part of that for me, and I think this speaks to what your journey, as you shared your journey, I felt like, oh, we have definitely been on parallel paths. Is to focus on that healing. And it's, you know, as we talk about these archetypes and their relationship to trauma, it has to be acknowledged that we are in these phases because of things that happen that we haven't quite reconciled, as you spoke to, right? And we cope in these various ways. And so when I think about my fortressness, you know, for this fortress phase, I think about that being, like you said, a protective phase, but also a cocoon phase for me. Like, I need to do the work and I'm not letting anybody in until this work is done, because otherwise I'm going to be the goddess attracting all the things that I don't want to be attracting, right? Like that kind of thing, rather than being the magnetic woman who is attracting. So I really love the way you've created these feminine archetypes. And maybe we'll be having a conversation offline, because when I get ready to get back out there, it's funny. I do have a therapist that I work with, and we've been moving through some of these conversations around boundaries, and you know, I've been healing from some past relationship trauma. And she said to me, well, the only way you're going to be able to know whether this stuff is stuck is to actually go out and try it and start dating again.
So
like,
true.
No,
I know, Dr. Maisha. You know what's
comfortable.
You know what's so funny? So part of that's so true. I'm on that same wavelength. And what's so funny is when I take clients through the process, we get to the point where we've done enough foundational stuff where it's, and we know this, but until you're in it, it's so funny. I call dating Trigger Town. Like, all right, girl, it's time to go to Trigger Town. The difference is, not like I back up everything what your therapist said, is because the difference is you can go through Trigger Town the same way that you've been doing it, which is going to get you the same result.
Right.
Or you can go through Trigger Town with support, like your therapist or me or what have you. And what that does is it helps you along the way do different actions, have different thoughts, have different beliefs, have reframes, have a mirror to what's happening inside of you so that you can get a different result, right? Yeah. Like that. So I'm like, okay, girl, I know that, it's time to go to Trigger Town.
Time to go.
Yeah, I get it. I completely get it.
Got to build the muscle, right? It's like
That's
going
it.
to the gym.
That's
you
it.
Go to the gym, you lift the weights, your body gets a little sore. It's just shaking off that lactic acid. You drink lots of water, you support yourself with good nutrition, and you nourish yourself, good self-care. Then you get back out there, you go to the gym the next day and you lift those weights. And before you know it, you got those beautiful, nice shoulders and a nice back and whatever kind of stomach that you feel comfortable with. I'm not going for the flat stomach.
Yeah.
My culture, we like a little bit of curviness. And so, but yeah, it's really great. It's really great. And thank you for affirming what has been shared with me. So yes, we will probably be having a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, like I said, some things I kind of want to leave some women with that are have been listening and have been seeing, maybe feeling too seen and too heard and too understood, right? Which is also like it can be a very confronting feeling because no one
Absolutely.
has really felt like that before.
Absolutely.
So if you're seeing these unhealthy things happening in your dating life, in your relationship life, what I really would love someone to know is that it's not you. This isn't you. You're not broken. You're not unfixable. You don't have to resign. Like there was a point in my life when I resigned myself to having a crappy relationship because that was all that I knew, right? It's not you. It's just a part of you that is screaming for you to heal. It's not you that's attracting the emotionally unavailable men. It's just a part of you. And that is the healing work, is really starting to understand, to see, to hear, to love, to have compassion, understand what's happening on the inside so you can get the outside result. And it's not typically something that you can do alone. There's a lot of work that you can do alone, but then that's when you hit the goddess woman phase and you can't get to the conscious stuff. I hope that helps and gives a little bit of space with whoever's listening, is that it's not you. It's really just a part of you screaming out for you to do something differently and heal.
Yeah, I love that you brought that in, because it is easy when we start to talk about archetypes and we talk about these things to then wrong ourselves or should
100%.
ourselves, right? I should be here. And one of the gifts of doing work with people like you is that you do get that space. You get to work inside of your blind spots, right? That's when you talk about the goddess person, is the only thing, all that she could done consciously, but then there's the blind spots that need to be revealed and unearthed and healed. The other thing is that if we understand that what's driving this is that trauma, then it's more motivating and empowering to heal, because you can release those things that have been gripping you for so long.
Yeah.
And it can be scary. But when you have the people, like the scaffolding, like you, Lilli, then it makes it easier. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything I do for myself these days is now an act of self-love. And that includes therapy, and that includes coaching, and that includes speaking up for myself, my desires. And it's uncomfortable sometimes, but I've learned, and we all have the capacity to do this, but learning how to do that, I think, is the work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to give you an opportunity to say anything if there's anything that I haven't asked you that you want to share about before I ask you to give the audience all your information, which we also will have in the show notes. Is there any last points, last words, last advice or suggestions or coaching that you want to leave our audience with?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the space. I love you. And I love whoever's listening as well. Everyone know that you're loved and supported. There's always choice and there's always options. I really don't have anything left on my heart. I poured it all out today. If anyone does want to take the Feminine Dating Archetype quiz, like I said, that's at datingarchetype.com, and it takes 2 minutes. Like I said, it reveals your blocks to love, helps you find your true love match, and gives you a next step from like where you are in your phase. And then if anyone ever wants to come hang out with me on Instagram in the community, it's just my name, Lilli Bewley, as the handle.
Yes. And we are going to have all of your information in the show notes. Is there a website they can go to? Is there any other places where you said datingarchetype.com. Are there any other places they can go to follow you? Talk about your podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm on lillibewley.com, really pretty much everywhere. Podcast is called the Lilli Bewley Podcast. Come hang out in that community. And yeah, if, like I said, my urge for you, if you're feeling too seen, too heard, too understood, it's because there's something up for you to heal, and to take the dating archetype quiz is going to be probably the most important step.
Yes. So go and take the dating archetype quiz. That is your homework, audience, for today, and my homework as well. Even though I kind of took it right here on the show, but that is our homework for today. Is we need to go and take the dating archetype quiz at datingarchetype.com. Yes. And so, Lilli, thank you so much for being with me today. Thank you for just your love. Thank you for the light that you bring, the knowledge and expertise that you bring, and for being my partner in this conversation.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Maisha. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. We'll have to do it again.
Absolutely.
All right, you all, go check out Lilli right now. Check out her podcast, check out the quiz, go hang out with her on Insta, and share this episode. Share it with a friend, share it with a family member, share it with a colleague, share it with someone you know who is wanting to find love but is having issues doing it. So share this episode. Leave us a review, because we really want the people who are coming behind us to know that this podcast is changing lives and making a difference. So with that, as always, I thank you for listening. Without the listeners, there is no podcast. And until our next episode, you all stay empowered.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. We know that without the listeners, there is no podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to subscribe so you do not miss when we drop our next episode. And share this podcast with a friend, a family member, and a colleague, at least one person in your life today. This episode was brought to you by the Mind Remapping Company, helping organizations create psychologically and emotionally safe cultures that make their employees and leaders feel seen, heard, respected, welcome, and valued, all while fostering a thriving, engaged, and healthy workforce for the organization. Is your organization in need of a speaker? I speak about topics like psychological and emotional safety, trauma-informed communication, and employee well-being. If this is aligned with your organizational inclusion, belonging, or leadership goals, contact me, Dr. Maisha, by going to www.mindremappingacademy.com. That's mindremappingacademy.com. Finally, we train leaders, but we also train coaches. If you're interested in becoming a trauma-informed coach, visit our website as well and check out our NLP coach trainings and certifications. We'll see you on the next episode. Until then, stay empowered.